Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're wonderful. It's another podcast we've got going on. We're very thankful to have you coming in again. Thanks, guys, for coming by. Be sure to subscribe to the show. I don't know where the wonderful came from. We just feel really wonderful today. Do you feel wonderful, Michael?
Oh, very wonderful.
Mike, he can't even hold himself back. He's so excited to be here. So we'll be talking to Michael here in a second. But in the meantime, you want to see the video version of this, go to, youtube.com/Chris Voss. How do I forget that? Goodreads.com/Chris Voss. See everything we're reading and reviewing over there. And also go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. There's just an endless monolith of groups over there that you can go and look at. Monolith, is that the right word? Who gave me a book deal? Anyway, guys, monolith. I don't know. We just put funny stuff at the beginning of the show to make it interesting for you guys. Anyway, guys, we have a most amazing author on the show, and he probably knows how to pick better words than I do at the beginning of shows. He's the author of the new book. It's coming out October 5th, 2021. The book is called Spies and Traitors. Kim Philby, James Angleton, and the friendship and betrayal that would shape MI6, the CIA, and the Cold War. His name is Michael Holzman. He's going to be talking about this. This is kind of exciting considering the James Bond movies coming out, MI6, all that good stuff. Michael was born in Brookings, South Dakota. He's the author of James Jesus Angleton, The CIA and the Craft of Intelligence, biographies of Guy Burgess and Donald and Melinda McLean, and the novel Pax 1934 to 41. He lives in Briar Cliff Manor, New York, and that might be Pax 1934 to 41. Is that correct, Michael?
That's right.
Welcome to the show. We were just testing you.
Thank you.
Testing you to see if you knew the title of your own book. I don't know. It's a rough comedy day here. Work in this room today. So, Michael, thank you for coming by. Congratulations on your book. Books are a lot of work, so we certainly appreciate you coming by and sharing it and all the time you put into it. Give us your plug so people can find you on the interwebs, please.
Well, the book is coming out from Pegasus Press,
Mm-hmm.
and it's available on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, all my books are available on Amazon.
There you go. How many books do you have, by the way?
7 or 8.
Yeah. And if you go on YouTube, you can see he's got several thousand behind him, I think, on his bookshelf. So he's a very well-read gentleman. I'm kind of jelly of your library there. So what motivated you want to write this book, Michael?
I had written a biography of James Angleton, and I had noticed that he had gotten very wound up with Kim Philby. And I decided that I had actually acquired some more information. The CIA has been releasing information that they say is about the JFK assassination. And they release this information by backing a truck up to Langley and filling it with files and then dumping them. So they're in no order whatsoever. I went through those, and I found out that not only were they about the Kennedy assassination, but they were about everything that the CIA had done randomly. I went through and I found out that there was a lot more information about Angleton, and I needed to update that.
Awesome. So who are these characters? Give us a basis of who these characters are for those who aren't familiar with these names.
Okay, well, this gets pretty deep into Secret Intelligence Service. Most countries have organizations that spy on other countries. Probably every country has organizations that spy on other countries. And then within those organizations, they have organizations that try to prevent other countries from spying on you. So the first of these was the Indian Intelligence Service of the Brits. And they used their secret intelligence service in India to keep the people in India from becoming independent. And the famous book about this is Kim by Rudyard Kipling. The Brits then took this home, and they set up secret intelligence services in England just before the Second World War. There was one that was to keep the empire and the people at home in line. They called that MI5. And then there was one to spy on everybody else. They called it MI6. When the Second World War started, the United States had none of these things.
Hmm.
And they needed somebody to teach them how to do it because they didn't want to be left out. So they set up the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, and sent people over to England to learn how to be spies.
The spy craft.
I think it's important to realize that spy is not a technical term. What you have are civil servants who have pensions and regular salaries and so on. Those are officers. Angleton and Philby were both officers. And then you have agents who the officers employ. And they don't have anything except death benefits for their beneficiaries.
Oh, wow. That's probably not a good thing either if you're having to cash in your death benefits, right?
Yeah. Among that data dump, I found a lot of these forms that people had filled out saying, yes, I accept to work with the CIA, and my grandmother should get the honorarium when I'm killed.
Now, are these the type of CIA people that you see that are usually unnamed on the wall of, I forget the name, the Wall of Honor or whatever?
In Langley, yeah.
At Langley, they're just a star. There's not a name.
Those are the officers.
Oh, okay.
Those are the employees. The agents have an unmarked grave.
Okay. Wow. You don't even get a marked grave. Wow. Jeez. Well, there's the honor in that.
So that's the background.
Nice. So give us an overall arcing of the book, or some details that you think that we can tease out to readers to get them to go buy it.
Okay, once I got interested in doing this, writing a dual biography of Angleton and Philby, I went into it. And what you have is that Philby, as I said, was an employee of MI6, the Foreign Service, Secret Intelligence Service of the Brits. And he had a very interesting background. He was born in India. That's what they called him, Kim, after the book by Kipling. His father had been a British agent who had worked in India and then had worked in Iraq. And at a certain point, he was told to go to Arabia. It wasn't Saudi Arabia then. It was before the First World War. And make friends with a chieftain there who was called Ibn Saud. And he did. And then he spent the rest of his life promoting the career of Ibn Saud, who became king of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow.
And also Kim Philby's father, whose name was St. John Philby, became famous as an explorer. And he was kind of parallel to T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. So
wow.
Lawrence of Arabia was supporting a fellow named Hussein, and St. John Philby was supporting Ibn Saud. And I went to the archives in London once, and I found these big books that were the memoranda, the reports that Lawrence had written and that Philby had written, St. John Philby had written. It was very thrilling. So there was a story about the father, and I decided to look at Kim Philby, and I decided to look at the father, James Angleton. And he turned out to have a completely different thing. He was born from absolutely dirt poor farmers in Indiana. He went west to make his fortune. He went to Idaho, near you, Boise, and this was before the First World War. And he went into what was then high tech, which was cash registers. And he got a job selling cash registers for the National Cash Register Company. And he went from there with absolutely nothing to become head of the largest American company in Italy.
Oh, wow.
Head of the American Chamber of Commerce in Italy. So his son, James Angleton, grew up in a palace in Milan and then was sent off to private schools in England, went to Yale. So that was the beginning there. So you have these very interesting father stories that then tie into the sons.
Now, this is kind of interesting. James and Kim, they were friends for 6 years, and then they become enemies. So this is kind of an interesting spy tale, isn't it?
Yeah, I should think so. So what happens then is that James Angleton is sent to London to learn how to be a spy, and his teacher is Kim Philby.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim Philby remains his mentor for a number of years. They work together in London against the Germans. Then Angleton is sent to Rome to work against the fascists there. And all the time he's asking Philby for advice. What do I do in this situation? Do I shoot this fascist? Or do I capture him and milk him for information? What should I do? At the end of the war, Kim Philby is made head of anti-Soviet work for MI6. This is rather ironic in retrospect, because when Kim Philby was in college in 1933 in Cambridge University, he became a member of the spy service for the Soviets.
Mm.
So from 1934, so he's a Soviet spy, an agent, as I said earlier, while eventually being a civil servant for the British intelligence service.
Mm-hmm.
He rises in the British intelligence service until he's seen as perhaps the next person to become head of it. Philby and Angleton worked together across the Atlantic. In 1949, Philby is put in charge of all relationships between British and American intelligence services for the Brits. And then he's revealed to have communist friends.
Uh-oh. That's always trouble.
That was trouble, yes. So two of his friends, Donald McLean and Guy Burgess, who are diplomats, disappear.
Mm.
And Guy Burgess had been renting a room, had been living in Philby's house in Washington. And people say, he's a friend of yours? And he's a spy? And you're very important in the British intelligence service? Maybe you need another career.
Uh-oh.
So he's fired.
Wow.
This upsets Angleton, because he finds out that one of his best friends and his teacher is a spy.
Wow.
So,
this is the ultimate spy games.
Yeah. So then you go from about 1950-51 to 1962, where Philby's kind of knocking around, and all the time Angleton is trying to catch him, setting traps, having people watch him, and so forth. In 1959, the old boys, the folks who have been friends of Philby's in MI6, say, we've got to take care of you, Guy. And they get him a job with the Economist newspaper and the Observer newspaper, and they send him to Beirut to be the Middle Eastern correspondent. He does that pretty well. And it's a strange situation where almost all the news that the British public get from the Middle East in those years is from Kim Philby as a journalist. So he writes these stories, which are very, very nice kind of political analysis stories, gives a copy to the Economist, gives a copy to the Observer, gives a copy to MI6, gives a copy to KGB. So he had a lot of carbon paper. They were using typewriters at that time. Eventually, everybody decide, the Brits and the Americans decide that this is not going to work, and they try to get him to confess. And just before, the night before he's supposed to confess, by coincidence, there's a Russian freighter in the harbor at Beirut, and he goes down there, he's picked up, goes to Moscow.
So he was bad?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And he becomes a trainer for KGB spies.
Wow.
In Moscow for the rest of his life, more or less.
So now this explains why they're enemies then.
Yeah.
Total.
So meanwhile,
betrayal.
Angleton is rising through what becomes the CIA.
Hmm.
And he goes back and he thinks about what's happened. Before Philby was revealed, they had collaborated on a number of things. There was an attempt to overthrow the government of Albania. And oddly enough, everybody who was sent to Albania to work on this got killed.
Oh, wow.
And there was a project to overthrow the Soviet-inspired government in Poland. And oddly enough, everybody who was sent over there got killed.
Mm.
And Angleton thinks, well, the common denominator here is my friend Kim Philby.
Wow. The one guy.
So for then years after that, after Philby had gone to Moscow, whenever anything went wrong with the CIA, Angleton said, this must be Kim's work.
Wow.
And he got kind of nervous.
Wow.
Meanwhile, he's rising up in the CIA. He was a very good bureaucrat. They were both very smart. Angleton was smarter, actually, and very highly educated. So he's rising up in the CIA, and he's given various top secret, what they always call special projects. One was they set up an operation at the airport in New York where all the international mail came through. And the CIA intercepted every piece of international mail and opened it and read it.
Oh, wow.
And then they had a similar operation with telegrams. So if you, in those years, 52 to 70 or something, if you sent a letter to your grandmother in Belgium, the CIA has read it.
Oh, wow.
If you send a telegram to your banker or your stockbroker in London, the CIA has read it.
Wow.
And that was Angleton's work.
Wow. Can they still do that? Well, they probably can. I mean, they can do whatever they want, really.
When Kennedy was assassinated,
Mm-hmm.
as you probably know, there were a lot of stories about who did it.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't me.
And it was very important to the CIA that nobody thought that the CIA did it.
Mm-hmm.
So they made Angleton the liaison with the Warren Commission.
Oh, wow.
And his job was to say, no. It wasn't the CIA. It was the Cubans, or it was the mob. The mob did it.
Now, doesn't that seem a little suspect, though? I mean, if you're working that hard, thou dost protest too much, as Shakespeare used to like to say.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Well, I've always thought that the grassy knoll was very crowded. There had lots and lots of people on it who were trying to assassinate Kennedy. Anyway, that's a joke.
Too soon, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's such a horrible event in American history, but well, you know, what can you say?
These things kept happening.
Yeah.
Whenever there was a need for somebody to do a special project, Angleton did it.
Oh, wow.
Finally, in 1972, he got into a fight with the new director of the CIA, Bill Colby, who fired him.
Wow.
And which seemed clear to Angleton that meant that Colby was the spy, obviously.
Ah.
And then he retired.
Oh. This is quite the interesting times. The CIA, the director of the CIA, and how those CIA worked. When I grew up, I remember reading about the Bay of Pigs. I think it was 1,000 Days by Salinger. Salinger. And how the CIA was the Bay of Pigs and that whole thing, and it's interesting how the fingers that have been in the pies over all the years and different governments, Pinochet and stuff that we've tried to muck about with. But this is really spyware stuff. Do you see this becoming maybe a movie on Spies or something? Because everyone loves spy movies.
Somebody wants to make a movie, that would be nice, I think.
Sure, there you go. Yeah. There you go. British versus American intelligence. Would that be a kind of a premise for this, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
One of my favorite movies was The Russia House. And that was kind of Americans versus the Europeans, with with their thing. That was a good movie because that tension in that movie was awesome. So this would make a great movie too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. So what other things do you want to tease out to readers to get them to pick up this baby?
Well, there's the story about fathers and sons and the lingering influence of fathers over sons.
Mm-hmm.
They both of them, well, when Philby went to Beirut doing this newspaper job, his father had retired, more or less, from helping the Saudi Arabians, the Saudis, and was living in Beirut.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of them used to go along. All these people, by the way, were alcoholics.
Most of the
British and American government, as far as I know, were alcoholics in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I don't know how. Well, we know how things went. So anyway, there are stories of Kim Philby and Sinjin Philby getting drunk and going through the streets of Beirut singing English public school songs.
That's probably something I do.
Yeah,
it's probably up my alley, right there. So this should be a pretty interesting book. It's going to come out on October 5th. And Traitors, MI6, CIA, Cold War. Do the CIA and the MI6 get along back then? Do they get along now? How does that whole thing work? Are they looking each other over, whatever, watching each other's backs, sort of thing, or whatever?
Well, officially they get along. One of the things that Angleton did was he set up a coalition of secret intelligence services called the Five Eyes, which was the British, the Americans, the Canadians, the New Zealanders, Australians. So there's a lot of connections at the secret level. Angleton thought that the split between the Soviet Union and China in the 1960s was a fake because he knew that their secret intelligence services were still working together.
Nice.
And you can see this going on. Actually, there's a news story today that's a related issue that the chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the last days of the Trump administration called up his opposite number in China, and they made a deal about how to work together in a period that seemed to be very unstable.
Wow.
And no one knew that until this morning. And I imagine that the head of the CIA has the same kind of relationship with the heads of all the other secret intelligence services around, whether or not they seem to be officially friends or enemies.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So it's going to be an interesting book. It's going to launch. Any last words before we go out that you want to tease out?
Be careful.
Be careful. Check out the book, guys. It's going to be coming out October 5th. Spies and Traitors, Kim Philby, James Angleton, and the friendship and betrayal that would shape MI6 and CIA and the Cold War. Thanks for being on the show, Michael. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Give us your plugs so people can find you on the interwebs or wherever you want them to order up the book.
I think you can just look in the usual places you look for books.
There you go. Well, thanks, Monis, for tuning in. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss. Hit that bell notification. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. See everything we're reading and reviewing over there. Go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those different places. You can see our stuff there. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.